Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vasiliki Papaioannou, and I'm a change management officer working for the European Medicines Agency. I would like to welcome you all to this CTIS Bite-Size Talk, the eighth of a series of short talks that cover a specific functionality in the Clinical Trials Information System, or CTIS. Today, we are holding our second session on notifications in CTIS. Throughout the session, there will be parts with live system demos and with questions and answers. To collect your questions, we are using Slido. As announced, we have offered you the opportunity to submit your questions in advance, and event participants are also invited to submit your questions live during the session through Slido. So please go to www.slide.do and enter the code BT23NOV, or you can scan the QR code you can see on your screens right now. And alternatively, there is a direct Slido link in the event page on the EMA's website. Whichever way you choose, once inside the Slido event, you can type in your questions and also upvote other users' questions that you want to see answered. As usual, we aim to answer the questions received in advance first and move on to the most popular questions submitted live. So please ensure to scan through the submitted questions and use the thumbs up feature. Please remember to keep the questions focused on the CTIS functionality of notifications so that we can best answer them. Now, in case the video screen is not easy for you to view, please read the instructions in the gray box underneath the embedded video on the event page. This is always there, and you can always find a link to watch the live broadcast in full screen. Also, the same link has been posted in Slido in the side menu. So once you have the video in full screen mode, you can further opt to increase the video quality by clicking the HD button on the bottom right of the screen. We recommend an analysis of 720p, or you can go even higher. Also, a stable internet connection facilitates your optimal viewing. I hope this technical information has been useful to all of you, and now I would like to introduce our speakers, Noemi Manon and Charalabos Drosos. Noemi joined the EMA in 2011 as a principal scientific administrator in the compliance and inspection sector. Today, she's a member of the Data Analytics and Methods Task Force, leading the CTIS operations work stream, enabling the application of the clinical trial regulation. Charalabos Babis is a CTIS change management officer responsible for various training-related activities, including sponsor and member states master trainers and training materials production. I will now be giving the floor to Noemi, who will take us through a short presentation on events notifications. Then, sessions with live system demo and question and answers will follow. Please remember to submit your questions in Slido and upvote questions you want to see answered first. Noemi, over to you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. So this is the session 2 of the notification bite-size talk. We will, as Vicky was saying, we will introduce this session with a short presentation, and here are the slides. So this is to give you a flavor of the notification that sponsors can indeed submit to CTIS for a particular trial. And here we're looking at the events notification. So the event notifications are the one that there's 4 of them, and those event notifications are listed there. So the first one is the unexpected event. Then we have the urgent safety measure event, the serious breach, and then the third country inspectorate inspections. So those 4 events are indeed mentioned in the clinical trial regulation. All of those are subject to timing in terms of when the sponsor has actually got the information. And I would say that you would need to refer to the clinical trial regulation. The system obviously enables the sponsor to submit those. We would collect, you would be asked to record the date of those events, but obviously, whether you are late or not, it really is not something that the system would prevent you to submit or not. The system is just enabling you to submit. If you are late, you are late, but this is not something that the system would monitor. So then, I should add is that those 4 events, when they are submitted by the sponsor, they are submitted to all member states concerned by the trial. And again, as the way the clinical trial regulation has been prepared, everything is trial driven. So even if you were to have a serious breach that potentially applies to multi trials, you would need to submit that serious breach to each trial individually. That's the way the system has been built, basically. Huh? So next slide, please. So what needs to be said is that those events, those 4 events, are independent of each other in a way. That's what we can say. However, you will see a connection between unexpected event and urgent safety measure. So let's look at what is an unexpected event. So as it says in the regulation, and you've got the article there mentioned there, Article 43, paragraph 1, the unexpected event is to be submitted to the member state. And why? Because it may influence the benefit risk assessment of the medicinal product. Or it can lead to changes in the administration of the medicinal product or in the overall conduct of the clinical trial. So therefore, there might be an impact on the way the protocol is being run. Therefore, member states need to be informed. And the regulation says that this notification should not be done no later than 15 days from the date the sponsor is being made aware. But as I said, those 15 days is something that you would need to obviously monitor, but the system should let you obviously submit any notification, even if you're late notifying it. Huh? So let's have a look at an urgent safety measure. The urgent safety measure has to be taken to protect the subject when there is an unexpected event. So when there is such an event that has been already submitted to CTIS and the sponsor needs to take urgent safety measures, then they would need to submit this notification to the member state. And it is required by the regulation not to do this notification later than 7 days from the date of taking the urgent safety measures. So this is where I would say there is a connection between those 2 events. We could anticipate to obviously have an unexpected event without any urgent safety measures. Now, can we have an urgent safety measures without any unexpected event? So when we actually collected the requirement with the member states, one thing that they did request was potentially urgent safety measures linked to SUSAR. And this is something that you will see when we actually demo the urgent safety measure. It's possible to link an urgent safety measure to SUSARs and not to unexpected events. So that's something to understand. So in a way, we could say that those 2 events can be independent of each other. Yes, it's possible. Yeah. Then let's have a look at the serious breach. Serious breach is likely to affect the safety and the right of subject, or have an impact on the reliability and robustness of the data generated in the clinical trial. And such notification needs to be submitted no later than 7 days before the sponsor being made aware. I think serious breach, you will find some guidance on this from the inspectors working group that came up with some guidance on that. Particularly, I think also this is a topic that was I think, well researched before, and certainly we had some member states who had this need for serious breach. So I think now this is all over the European Union. And then the fourth event notification here would be the third country inspectorate inspection. So this is here an inspection report that would have been submitted to the sponsor by a third country inspectorate. So obviously an inspectorate outside of the European Union. And it's expected to have this report submitted to our member states for this particular trial. So as you can see, the Article 53, paragraph 2 here does not provide any timelines. And I think that's a question that has been asked to us and to member states. Currently, there's no timelines as such in the guidance. I think this is something we can probably ask member states to be mindful of. That would that be the effect of a clarification in the Q&A of the Commission? Potentially. I think you may want to use your judgment in when to submit this report, especially with the awareness of the previous event that I've just mentioned. Obviously, if there is an impact and on the reliability, on the safety of subject, I guess it's quite important for member state to be informed. So that's the way probably to take and to consider the submission of this report. Also, maybe to mention which, if we were to have a site, let's say this specific trial is being conducted in Europe, but also outside of the EU. We have investigator sites. We have potentially also clinical sites, or it could be a laboratory. It could be that is a central laboratory located outside of the EU, and then this all those sites are being visited by a third country inspectorate. A report is prepared. Do we expect those reports to be submitted to CTIS? I must say, over the years, the feedback that we receive on the interpretation of this article from the Commission has certainly been clarified further. Today, the view is that obviously any site in Europe that would be visited by a third inspectorate, we see as quite important for the member state to be notified of this inspection report. Now, for any sites outside of the EU, I think the current interpretation is that if it would be required to have those reports submitted to the member state, I must say this is not yet clarified as such in the Q&A that is available, has been made available by the Commission. And I think we should ask, and we should make sure that further clarification is given, because this is again a question that is being posed, and we should have a clear answer on this particular point. So next slide, please. So this is to give you a flavor of CTIS, and I think that would be very nice with the demonstration that will come shortly after this presentation. So as you can see here, we've got those events here, notification on events. And the way to look at it is that if we look at the first one here, unexpected events, so this is the first thing you will see, unexpected events, serious breach, urgent safety measure, and third country inspectorate inspection. So those 4 events are actually mentioned in the event notification tab for each trial. When they're empty, obviously you wouldn't see anything underneath, but the placeholder exists. And if we were to click on the unexpected event, which is there showed with number one, number one, then you would be led to number two, and you would need to click on new. And then once you've clicked on new, you basically have a pro forma, a model, a form that opens, and the user would fill in this form. It can be saved without being submitted, obviously. And once it's saved, automatically a business key is prepared. And each of those events would then be recorded under the business key. So as you can see there, the unexpected event there, the first one that we've got, has this business key. And then once it's been saved to the system, I can revisit it by using the icon under the actions. I can view it, I can edit it, or I can even delete it once it's in draft, obviously. So maybe I'm actually showing a delete here, but in fact, this particular one has been submitted, so I would not be able to delete it as such. So I think this is what we wanted to show you on this particular screen. So next slide, please. So in terms of the publication aspect, what we can say here is that the publication of these events would require an assessment before they are published, except the third country inspectorate inspection notification. As soon as that report is submitted to the member state, in principle, it is made public, obviously, if there's no deferral. For the other three types, so that would concern unexpected event, safety, urgent safety measure, and serious breach, the publication of those events would only be done once the authority has actually assessed the notification. And this is, they have a particular functionality in the system that enables them to do what we call an ad hoc assessment. Within this ad hoc assessment, potentially, when they do the review of a notification, so if it were to be a serious breach, they would have the ability to actually request for more information from the sponsor, because it might be needed in order for them to complete their assessment. And once they've actually done the assessment of this particular notification, they can then organize for this notification to be then published. So, and the detail of the notification as well as the summary of the assessment. So when we say summary of the assessment, obviously it's only the final view from the member state, the final assessment. That would be recorded alongside the notification, and this is what currently would be published. And I think Babis will very nicely show you that in a minute. So next slide, please. And then that leads us to the demonstration, and then further on to the question and answer session. So Babis, I'm handing over to you. Thank you.
Many thanks, Noemi. Good afternoon to everybody. I'll take a moment to start sharing my screen. I hope that you can see the CTIS environment. And I will be using CTIS Sandbox. It's the training environment, and it might be feeling slightly different from the real production environment. I will open the technical trial that I have prepared for this demo. It's an authorized trial. And I will go directly to the notifications tab. And on top, you can see the notifications that are related to start trial and recruitment. Those notifications were explained in the previous Bitesize event, and you can access the recorded session of this event from the event page. I will move to the second half of the screen, in which you can see that the working areas for those event notifications are hosted. We have 4 sections here, one for unexpected event on top, one for serious breach, another one for urgent safety measure, and the last one for third country inspectorate inspection. I will be focusing now on the unexpected event. And you can see that in each one of those sections, you can find some notifications already listed there. For the unexpected event, we can see 4 notifications being listed below. From this overview, you can already see some basic information. And you can see the business key. This is a unique identifier that is being given from the system once the user, the sponsor user, submits that notification. You can see the member state concern of the related trial. You can see an internal sponsor ID. This is a value that is being populated by the sponsor user once he or she opens the notification form. Then 2 dates are following, the submission date and the last date that the notification was modified. And then you can see also the status. In our case, for the unexpected events, we have 2 notifications that have been submitted, the first and the last one, and we have 2 that are still in draft. In the last column, we have the action buttons, and we will explain them in a few moments. But before we go to the action buttons, I would like to show you how you can create a new notification by using, of course, this plus new button that is located on the right side. By clicking on that, you open the relevant notification form, in our case, the unexpected event form, and the user is called to populate fields. And of course, there are placeholders that allow users to upload the documents. On top, you can see the sponsor internal identifier. It's like your internal reference. Below, you can see the date that the sponsor became aware of this unexpected event. If it happens that the date that the sponsor became aware is the same with the date that the unexpected event occurred, you can just tick in the box here. So let me populate one date here. And I will click on this button so you can see that the date is populated automatically. Otherwise, you untick the box and you use the calendar icon here. Below, you can see, you can indicate the countries in which the unexpected event occurred. So I can just select here like one of the member state concern. Here below, you need to populate medical product associated or active substance or even device if you have already populated those items in your clinical trial application. If I click on that, the system retrieves the medical products that I had populated in my clinical trial application. I will just select one of them. And then, in case you have populated active substances or devices, you can, by using the same functionality, you can select them. In my case, if I click on that field, I cannot retrieve anything simply because I have not populated any active substance or device. Below, you have a number of free text fields in which you need to populate clinical procedures that are associated with this unexpected event. You have another field here, it's labeled other, and you can add more details for this unexpected event. Below, you have like an event, you have a free text field in which you can describe the event. Just put some dummy values. And of course, also below you have you can list the measures that you take for this event. Below you have a number of document placeholders. In the first one, you can upload the report for the notification for this unexpected event. If you click on that, or if you drag and drop your document from your local disk to this gray area, I will just browse my drivers and I will select the document. And what I just want to show you here, just recall here, I will just change the name of the title of this document. You can see that the first document that you upload is for publication. So if the authorities select, if the authorities make an ad hoc assessment for this notification, and if they issue an outcome, and they connect this ad hoc assessment with your notification, as Noemi explained previously, the notification details will be published. So here you can, like by default, the first document that you upload is for publication. And if you think that, and I will attach it now, and you see also from the label that this document is for notification, if for some reason you think that you need to provide the authorities with a version of the document that includes CCI, commercial information or like personal data or confidential information, you need to click this plus icon. And then the second document that you will upload on that placeholder is not for publication. Of course, you can change the title here. And if you would also like to inform your colleagues, you can even use the comment section here and inform them that this document includes CCI and is not and should not be published, something like that. Then, as soon as you fill in all the details, either you can just submit directly the notification, or you can just save. And by saving this, you just create another draft. So, as you saw previously, we had 2 drafts. Now we have a third one. And of course, you can let other colleagues like fill in the remaining details, or just go ahead and finish it and submit it. Now I would like just to show you like the action buttons. The action buttons are more or less the same for all the 4 types of notifications. So you have, of course, the eye icon. This opens the notification in a read mode. You cannot change anything. You just see the details that have been populated previously. And of course, you can use the X button on top, or like the close button to close it and come back to the overview. Then you have the pencil icon, and there is a difference here. I mean, the pencil icon allows you to change the fields that have been populated previously, but the difference is that, like, if you check the pencil icon for draft notifications, the label is edit. If you do it like for submit notifications, the label is update. And there is also like an additional difference in the forms of those notifications according to the status. If I click on the pencil icon for one notification that is in draft, I will open the form in edit mode. I can change every field here, the structured data, I can change the documents, I can upload documents, and then I can use the buttons below to close it. If I click on the close button, then you can see that I can just reject all the changes that I have been working just now and go back to my initial draft. If I cancel it, I'm just going back to the edit mode. If I use the cancel button here, I will just, and I click it, I will just cancel the whole draft. So, and I will do that in a while. I will just cancel the whole draft and I will go back. I will do it. And you saw the draft disappeared. It's as if I have never created something or submitted anything. I will use like another draft to see the other buttons. If now I make changes, for example, I change the field here, I add more details, more text here, and I click on the save button. As you can see, the status remains in draft, and it's only that I have populated the date here because I just modified this draft. Click on the edit button, and if you finish all the fields and upload the documents, you can submit it. I will just upload the one document here. I will attach it. I think I have filled in all the mandatory fields, save it, and then I will submit it. And you will see that once you submit it, you actually, of course, you have like a last like confirmation. I will click on that. And you see that the status just changed from draft in submitted. And you can see that the submission date was populated just now. Then after the pencil icons, before we move to the next button, let's see also what happened, how it looks like if you try to use the pencil icon for a submitted notification. Previously, we did it only for a draft notification. If you click on the update, again, you can make all the changes in all those fields and also on the documents, but you have one mandatory field, a new one that was revealed just now. You need to justify you need to provide authorities with the justification for updating this, this notification. So please write something here. And once you fill in one value in this field, you will be able to make an update on this notification. Click on that. Okay. And just now you saw that the modification date changed again. Of course, I did the same thing. I did it for the same day, so you could not see like any real change here. But what happened is that like a new icon was added to that notification. The last button is called versions, and it provides user with with the previous version of this notification. With the icon, you can see the very last version, but you can access also the previous versions that you had submitted in past. So click on this arrow, and you can see that you can access, in read mode, of course, the version 1. And of course, here, like I had like previous, like the values of the previous notification, the previous draft. If you click on the icon, you will see that here you have the version 2. And the last button, it is this X icon. It is called withdraw. You can withdraw your submitted notification. If you click on that, you just need to provide authorities with like a reason for doing that. You can even like add some documents if you want, and then you can confirm the withdrawal. Once you do that, you change now the status of this notification to the withdrawn, and you can just view the last version of that. You can see actually also like here, like in the very last notification that, and you can see that there is a difference. This notification did not have any X button. You could not withdraw the button. And the reason for that is that this notification was published. The authorities, you see that it's quite old notification. It was submitted like 2 weeks ago. Then the authorities, they did an ad hoc assessment. They issued an outcome, and they connected that outcome to this notification, and it was published. So if it's published on the public domain, there is a different process for that. You need to request the removal of the data from the public domain, and then you will be allowed, if that request is approved, then you will be allowed to withdraw also your notification from the secure domain. Scrolling down, those were the action buttons, and more or less the same apply for all the notifications below, as you can see. Just to show very quickly how the forms of the other events look like. So if I click on the serious breach, again, you need to populate structured data, and also you have document placeholders to upload your report or any supporting documentation. Again, on top, you have this sponsored internal identifier, your internal reference to this document. You have also like the date that you became aware of this serious breach. Again, the real date that the serious breach occurred. Below, you can select affected countries. Here, in this one, in this field, you will need to populate the details of the site in which you observed that serious breach. So by clicking on add, you retrieve from the system organization data that have been already populated to your trial. In my case, this is the sponsor details and also the clinical trial sites that I added in part 2. If like the serious breach occurred in a different location, not in one of those, you can always use the search button and retrieve data from the OMS system as you do in other places of CTIS. I will cancel it. I will go below for the breach category. You can select. You can indicate whether it regards regulation, breach, serious breach, or protocol. Areas that have been impacted by this serious breach. You see also you have pre-populated lists, and you need to select. If you select other, you have additional field, free text field, in which you can just start typing the details. And below also you have like additional free text field in which you are called to provide the description of the serious breach what was the impact on the trial, and also if you have taken any actions, if you have planned anything, including the timelines, to cope with this breach and to prevent any reoccurrence of that breach or anything similar to that. And in the very end, you have also, you need to indicate a radio button, yes or no, if this serious breach has impacted the balance between the balance between the safety and the, excuse me, if it has impacted the safety of the subjects, or if there is any impact on the benefit-risk balance. By selecting yes, you have a free text field in which you need to add the details. No, you don't have that field. And below you have also the document placeholders you need to use to provide the authorities with the report, plus any supporting documentation that might be needed, might be useful for them and their assessment. Closing that, I will just open like the urgent safety measure. Again, the fields, they might differ from the fields of the previous forms, but what I would like to indicate here is that if the urgent safety measure is related to some unexpected event, you need to use here the radio button, and then the system, it retrieves the two unexpected events that are the two unexpected events that have been submitted. We saw them previously, like 5 minutes ago, and you just need to select one of them or even all of them if they are relevant to this urgent safety measure notification. If you select here the SUSAR, then it's a bit different. You just need to provide them with the identifier of the SUSAR of that report. For other, you don't have that. In that case, if you select other, then you would just need to populate the remaining free text fields. Those are mandatory, and you need to provide authorities with a description of the event that triggered that urgent safety measure, what happened, and you need to take that urgent safety measure, plus a description of the safety measure. And of course, as always, below you can find the document placeholders that are relevant to this notification. And in the very end, we will open also the form for the third country inspectorate inspection. Again, what is different here is that you need to populate the sites. There is a question for that. Please ignore that label. This is a wrong label. Soon it will be fixed. You need to provide here the details of the site that a third country inspectorate inspection happened. So if you click on that, it's again, initially the system retrieves the organization data that have been populated to the clinical trial. But of course, if in none of them happened any inspection, you can always search for additional organization data by using the search button and retrieve any data from OMS. And that was it. As it concerns the sponsor workspace, those are the action buttons. I would like to take just a minute to show you how the notification look like in the public domain. So here I have, it's not like the real production public domain. It's a testing environment also. So I will search for a trial. In which I have acted as the authorities. So I ran an ad hoc assessment, I issued an outcome, and I connected that outcome to the notifications that a sponsor had submitted earlier. So I will search for the trial. So you can see, if you open the trial here, you can see here that for one of those member states concerned, the trial has started. But if you go here, like on top, on the event tab, now you see 5 tiles. 4 of them are concerned with the event notifications. One is for the temporary holds. And you can see that if I open the unexpected event, I have one here that has been published. You need to use the radio button to activate the view details button. By checking in this radio button, you see that the view details button is getting darker. You can use it. view details, and here you open the details that have been populated by the sponsor. So if you scroll down, you see all those details that the sponsor user had populated in past. And in the very end, you can see also like the PDF document that had been attached by the sponsor. If you click on that, it will be downloaded to your download files and you can access it. That does it concerns the demo. So I think I will go back to Vicky.
Yes, thank you very much, Babis, for
I'll
this.
stop saying Vicky. Is it okay?
Yes. If you are
Thank
complete,
you.
I can share now. So, with following the demo, we will now go to your questions. We will start with the questions that we received in advance. And I will share my screen and we can start with the most popular questions received in advance. So, is there a way to automatically receive an email whenever a new notice or alert is published in the CTIS portal on the Notices and Alerts tab? Or is an API application programming interface available for us to get this information? This question is for Noemi.
So thank you for the question, although obviously it's not related particularly to the topic of today, which is focused on the notification event. I think there's a great interest in knowing whether sponsors could receive automatic emails in relation to notices and alerts. So I think that's why we've chosen to take the question. There is no possibility today for users of CTIS to get emails on whenever there is an RFI submitted to them, or whether there's a notice or an alert that had just popped into the Notices and Alert tab. That was not a requirement that we gathered when we collected the requests from sponsors and member states. That is not a requirement of the regulation. That is not a requirement for the system when we had all of them laid out for the audit. So as we understand, there might be some new motivation for new requirements in the system, and obviously we want to hear those. So please do submit your requests to the service desk. Those are not ignored. We are looking also at new requirements, and do please provide in such a way we will have exactly the name of the users that are asking that new requirement, and we can further analyze those requests. So the more we would receive of that requirement, the more we would consider it for the future. So thank you on this particular topic.
Many thanks, Noemi. The next question reads to please confirm which retrospective notifications are mandatory. There are discrepancies between the sponsor's handbook and EMA training material for transitional trials, module 23, about temporary holds. This I would like to ask again Noemi to take.
So thank you for the comment. This is something we are very much aware of, and we are currently reviewing the sponsors handbook. We've noticed this discrepancy for temporary holds, and I would like to confirm that temporary holds are not required to be submitted to CTIS when there is a trial being transition. And when I say it's not required for a retrospective temporary hold that would have occurred in the past on a trial that would have been, let's say, managed under the clinical trial directive, it is not required to submit retrospective temporary hold in CTIS when that trial has been transitioned. the only retrospective notification that are required to the system in CTIS for a trial that has been transitioned is the start of the trial and start of recruitment, obviously. And in fact, these two notifications can be provided with a date in the past and prior to the decision that you would have been notified for in CTIS.
Thank you for the reply. The next two questions I would like to ask Babis to address. So the first one reads, what is the timeline to evaluate a serious breach notification by member state concerned? Babis, I don't know if you can.
Yes, Vicky, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vicky. Sorry, excuse me. I needed to unmute myself a second time. Yes, regarding this, this is like a member state concern best practices, and it needs to be provided by the member states. It's not like a clear instruction on the CTR or on the questions and answers of Commission regarding that.
If you have concluded your reply, I can move to the next question. Are notifications for local end of trial or local temporary hold required after a member state concerned has imposed a corrective measure for revoke authorization or suspend clinical trial?
Yes, Vicky, thank you very much. That actually depends on the type of the corrective measure that is imposed by the member state concerned. So, in case that the member state concerned imposes a corrective measure to revoke the authorization of the clinical trial, then the sponsor indeed will need to submit an end trial notification and upload the results. Now, if it happens that the member state concerned imposes a corrective measure to suspend the clinical trial status, then the sponsor will probably need to submit a substantial modification as per the member state instructions. And if the substantial modification fulfills the requirements from the member state concerned, as those communicated to the sponsor, then the member state concerned will revert the status of the trial to the previous one to authorized status.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next one. Third country authority inspection report CTIS notification document upload field states mandatory report summary, but the regulation states only inspection report. What should be uploaded, report or summary? Babi, if you can take this as well.
Yes, thank you, Vicky. The answer here is that like the CTR clearly indicates that the sponsors are expected to upload an inspection report. And actually, this report summary is just the document type label for this inspection report document. Okay, the answer is that sponsors shall upload the inspection report, not a summary.
Okay, clear. Thank you, Babi. And moving on to the next one. Please indicate which CTIS fields are mandatory for unexpected event notification. There are discrepancies with regard to field requiredness between structured data form and CTIS training video module 5 other notifications.
Vicky, I can take this up.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Vicky. Actually, there is no like discrepancy between structured data form and this video that the user refers to. The video describes more or less the action buttons, what the users watched with the previous demo. It doesn't describe which fields need to be populated and which not. And I assume that like the user might have seen one frame of this training video and she or he might consider it like some fields as mandatory. and while in the structured data form do not seem as mandatory or not or optional. So there's no discrepancy, and of course, like users need to follow the structured data form to know which fields they need to populate and which are optional, not the video.
Okay, thanks for clarifying this. The next question I would like to ask Noemi to reply to that. According to Article 53, the sponsor shall submit to the member state concerned all inspection reports of third country authorities. Could you clarify whether there is a timeline for this notification?
So, as confirmed earlier, there is no timeline for this notification. I think, as I was saying, it's probably for the sponsor to use their best judgment, knowing the nature of the other event notification that we talked about today. What is important here is that if there is anything that the member state should be made aware of, obviously it's important for the sponsor to share, and this is why this article exists in the clinical trial regulation. So, as mentioned, there is no timeline, and also, as I was commenting, and I think there's probably a question on this point, the type of notification are to do with GCP inspection. Here we want to notify the assessors that are taking part in the assessment of a clinical trial of any GCP inspection. That is what we want to sponsors to upload to CTIS, and also for currently sites in Europe for sure, and for sites outside of Europe again. We don't have a clear clarification from the European Commission. We hope to have that clarification in the future. But again, sponsors should use their judgment, because it's very much an inspection report that would then have, we would need to inform the member states of any potential issues. So again, please use your judgment in submitting this inspection report, especially for the site outside of the EU.
Thank you, Noemi. The next question. When urgent safety measure is in response to an unexpected event, does this mean both unexpected event and urgent safety measure notifications need to be submitted? Noemi, if you can please take that.
Yeah, I think this was kind of responded with the presentation, so you should have access to that presentation. If it's not, I think it's already been made public. And so there can be definitely a link between the unexpected event and then the urgent safety measures that would be taken by the sponsor. So can they be submitted? Does this mean that both needs to be submitted? Yes, if there's a link, obviously. Yes, so but they're not necessarily at the same time, I guess.
Thank you. The next one is in the new third country inspectorate inspection notification. What is meant by the question details of the site where the serious breach occurred? Is this an error as the notification is related to inspections, not serious breach?
Thank you, Vicky. I can take this up.
Yes, please go.
Well, indeed, and we highlighted that during the demo. This is clearly like a wrong label on the system. It has been reported and soon it will be fixed. Users need to populate, of course, there the details of the site that the inspection occurred, not serious breach.
Thank you, Bobby. The next one, I will read it. In the new third country inspectorate inspection notification upload of a report summary is mandatory, but it is not aligned with the regulation, which states sponsor to submit inspection reports. What is required, report or summary? I think we have replied a few questions before, Babis has told us that it's the report that is required. And we can move on to the next question, if you agree. In the new third country inspectorate inspection notification, is there expectation for CGLP lab inspection reports for BAB studies to be uploaded, or is the scope limited to GCP inspection reports? Noemi, if you can give us an answer here.
So I think the expectation is to have inspection report related to good clinical practice, but obviously this particular example of a laboratory that would have been inspected in the context of a clinical trial, I think this is very much borderline, and the recommendation would be to submit this report to the member state concerned.
Thank you. So next question reads, for USM notification in response to unexpected event, for the mandatory lookup for the unexpected event ID, must the unexpected event notification be fully submitted, or can it just be created, saved, but not yet submitted? I think it goes with the previous question that you replied, Naomi. Do you agree?
Yes, that's fine. That's fine. So the answer to that question is that you can only link when you're creating an urgent safety measure notification. You can only link an unexpected event that has indeed been already submitted. There is no possibility to just save the unexpected event and then prepare USM. It is not it's not possible with the current implementation. And in fact, the reason for this is that we would expect, if there was a flow of action, first of all, for member states to be notified of an unexpected event, and then later on of any urgent safety measures that would have been needed to be taken. So I think this is probably correct in terms of implementation. But again, if you have some doubts and you would want to find out more, please do send us a query to the service desk. Thank you.
Many thanks. Moving on. From which date is unexpected event notification compliance measured? Per Article 53, this is 15 days from the date the sponsor became aware of this event. But the CTIS structured data form indicates date of becoming aware is optional. If you can give us a reply, please, Noemi.
So yes, correct. It is from the date of the sponsor becoming aware. I think this is very much the concept within safety as well. So in pharmacovigilance, so we would follow the same principle, and we would then need to collect the date of when the sponsor became aware. So now, in terms of the actual structured data, I must say I'm not so much knowledgeable on whether this particular field is optional or not. I think, Babis, you might want to jump in on this one, and after I finish responding, then completing this answer. But obviously, this is from this particular date, so I strongly recommend that you indicate the date on the form. So, Babis, I don't know whether you want to further clarify whether this field is optional or not. But please do jump in.
Correct. I mean, correct, Noemi. It might not have the asterisk, and therefore it might not be considered mandatory. I mean, the date that the user became aware of this event. But as you said, users should strongly consider populating that field.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Next question, also for Noemi, reads to, if the global study completion of a study is in April 2024, would UDRA-CT still be functional and accept results in April 2025? Or would such trials, results due after 31st January 2025, need to transition to CTIS?
So for this, I will recommend that you consult the sponsor handbook that is currently being revised. It will be the next revision will be published very soon, and in fact, it's quite clear on what in terms of transitioning a trial to CTIS is quite clear. And in the particular scenario that is presented there on the screen, if a study has completed by April 2024, which is before 31st of January 2025, it is not required to transition that study to CTIS. And indeed, you will be able to provide results to UDRACT after the 31st of January 2025, because in fact that study would not have been transitioned. So the system will still allow you to provide those results into the system, because obviously you have to fulfill your obligation. So you will be able to do that within UDRACT.
Thank you, Noemi. Moving on to the next questions. The next three questions are all for Bobby. So first one reads, for transitioning trials retrospective notifications, are start of trial and start of recruitment the only required submissions once the trial is authorized under CTR?
Yes, thank you, Vicky. Yes, and as Noemi explained previously, temporary hold is not needed in those cases, but start trial and start of recruitment notifications, they are needed, and retrospectively, you can submit them for trials that have been transitioned under CTR.
Thank you. And next question, for transition trials, do you submit a retrospective temporary hold that occurred under CTD, or will this block CTIS, as there will be no substantial modification in CTIS to link to the restart of the trial?
Yes, so again, I think it's more or less similar question. Users shall not submit temporary holds that happen under CTD in trials that transition to CTR in CTIS. So they should not do that.
Thank you. Next question reads, considerations for transitional trials in the sponsor handbook lists, for example, start and end of the trial, start of recruitment, temporary hold. How is it technically possible to submit a retrospective temporary hold without blocking CTIS?
I think we've already responded to this particular question. Yes, there's no need and there's no possibility for sponsors to submit retrospective temporary hold to CTIS, as it was mentioned. It's correct that today the current sponsor handbook does mention temporary hold, but we are actually correcting this. And in the next version of the sponsor handbook that is coming very shortly, this has been corrected. So thank you for pointing this out.
Thank you. The next question is for Babis and reads to, with unexpected events not always relating to a single case, for example, increased rate of occurrence, is there guidance for completing the mandatory field date of unexpected event?
Yeah, thank you, Vicky. I think now this is a bit also a matter of the sponsors, how they manage their data, but sponsors, they need to create and submit the notification as soon as they become aware of that event. Then, of course, as you might have noticed during the demo, in the notification form, you have a lot of free text fields. So you might use them in the best way you consider possibly. You can add details there of other related events or occurrences if you think that you do not need to create a new notification for those occurrences.
Many thanks. Moving on to the next question, will there be a list of breach categories provided in a drop-down menu? And Noemi, if you can take this one.
So I think during the demonstration that was given just now by Babis, we could potentially see that there's only two categories. It's either regulation or protocol. And in fact, you can also visit all the lists, the value lists that we have in CTIS. Everything is made available or has been published under the training material website. So again, if you cannot find it, I would advise that you spend a little bit of time on the EMA website. Within the training information, we have quite a lot of information there published, and you have the value list of all the lookup lists that are made available in CTIS. So you should find, again, you should find this particular list if you're interested into it.
Thank you, Noemi. The last question that we received in advance sounds a bit familiar. I will read it. Is there a way? We replied to this question, yes. So we can move on to the questions we have received today. And we will start with the most relevant and most popular ones. Shall I take the first one? Operationally in CTIS, is there any difference in submitting a notification while an application is under evaluation? For example, draft substantial modification, draft RFI response, or are notifications unaffected by the evaluation activities?
So in the event of so this requester is asking if a notification is been submitted. So we need to be clear that in fact, if there is let's look at the flow of a clinical trial. So the sponsor is currently preparing the draft initial application. So when there is only a draft initial application, there is no possibility to submit any of the notification that you were presented during session 1 or session 2. At this point in time, that trial does not exist for the member states. So they would not want to assess a serious breach that may have occurred in a third country. Let's be very clear. You will not be able to submit any notification. So this is when the initial application is in draft. Now let's take the scenario that you have submitted the initial application. It's currently under evaluation, and you may want to submit a notification. Obviously, you could not submit any of the notification that we talked about in session 1. Now, can you submit any of the notification that we talked in session 2? The current implementation is that you cannot. You would only be able to submit any notification after the decision on the trial, and only if the decision is positive. So if we were to to think of a decision that is obviously not authorized, the sponsor will not be able to submit any of the notification to the member state concerned if they have not authorized the trial. So that's for sure. Now let's take the scenario where there is here it talks about a draft SM. You could have prepared a draft substantial modification, but it's not under evaluation. You can certainly submit a notification to the member states, and they can evaluate them, or they can review those, no problem at all. Even if you have submitted your substantial modification, you are in a position to submit any of the event notification that we talked about today, for sure. A draft RFI response. I guess it's the same response as for the draft SM. While you're drafting an RFI response, you certainly can submit any of the event notification that we talked about today. And what I would say that the notification therefore are not affected by the evaluation activities. That's correct to say in terms of the event notification we talked about today. Yeah, correct.
Thank you, Noemi. The next question. As notifications record the name of the CTIS user who submits them, would ad hoc RFIs for that notification be tied or addressed to that specific user in CTIS?
Vicky, I can take this up
Thank you.
if you want. Previously, during the demo, I mentioned that the notification has some fields. Among them is also the internal sponsor ID. This does not regard the user ID. It's just a free text field that is populated by the user, and in calls it gives a label, an internal reference to this notification. So you won't see the username of the user who submitted that notification on this overview. And of course, if the authorities follow up on that notification and they submit an RFI related to this ad hoc assessment, this RFI will not be linked to a particular user. Every user that has the appropriate roles will receive that notification, will receive that notice and alert, and will be able to respond to that ad hoc related RFI.
Okay, thank you, Babis. Next question reads, can we just refer to a document in Serious Breach structured data fields? Babi, do you want to take this one maybe?
Well, I'm not so sure about that. As I said, as we saw during the demo, in these forums for the serious breach, users they can populate a lot of free text fields. If you think that you should make that you shall make a particular reference to a document of your clinical trial application dossier, of course, and you can do that. You are free to do that. And yeah, it's really up to you, I think. Technically, it can be done, of course.
Okay, thank you. Next question. As notifications are deferrable only for some Category 1 trials, how quickly will notifications without deferral be made public after submission by the sponsor?
So here we need to think that obviously, as we commented on today, those at least 3 notifications before they're being made public needs to be assessed by the member states. So how quickly will the notification be made public depends on how long will the member state take to actually assess that notification. I think this is the way to answer, and there's no particular timing today that have been decided. Potentially in the future, member state may come up with best practices, but at this point in time, this is not something that we've been made aware of.
Many thanks. Moving on to the next question. Is day 0 of a serious breach when the sponsor is notified by CRO or site something happened, or when the sponsor decides it is a serious breach, or after investigating it?
So for this point day 0, I think it's very clear in the clinical trial regulation that it says from the time the sponsor is being made aware. Made aware could certainly be according to your standard operating procedures that this is when the sponsor has actually effectively decided that it was. unless somebody else has actually made you aware that this is a serious breach. I think, again, this is, let's say that is, you have to use your standard operating procedures on serious breach, as it's important that you have one in order to understand how you will manage those events that may be reported to you as a serious breach, or that for which you will need to report to the authorities. So it's quite an important topic to have within your quality management system, and certainly to have a standard operating procedures on this particular topic.
Thank you, Noemi. For the next question, for serious breaches, do we always need to upload EMA form for this, or is it enough to only fill in the data fields in CTM?
Uh, I can start with that question if you want, and maybe Noemi can also add details. I assume that the user asks if it's mandatory for them to upload the documents in the document placeholders found in the end of the forms. If that's the question, it's not mandatory. The system will not prevent you from submitting the notification if you have not uploaded any documents. But please be in mind that those free text fields, they have a limitation of characters, and this limitation is mentioned on this structured data form for notifications, this spreadsheet. Most of them have the limitation of 4,000 characters. If you think that this is enough to explain all the details, you might try and submit the serious breach form. If you think that this is not enough, the system provides you with a placeholder to upload documents in which you can describe all the details of the event. Noemi, do you have anything else in mind for this question, or?
No, I think that's. I think you spot on. Huh? No, nothing to add. Thank you, Babis.
Thank you both. The next question is, what if my justification for changing a submitted notification is I committed a mistake? Noemi? Yes.
So on this particular one, so we need to understand that what was demoed to you is the ability to update a notification. So we'll just take an example. You have submitted a serious breach, and you now want to update it with more information. So the system has the functionality for you to update and provide more information. Now, you've submitted a serious breach, and I'm going to take an example, again, a scenario. You submitted a serious breach for the wrong trial. If you use the update functionality, it's not going to resolve the issue here, because even if you made a mistake, so what I want to say is that if you were to have submitted a serious breach for a trial, but then let's take another scenario, you have in fact uploaded a document that shouldn't have been uploaded with this notification. In such a case, even if you use the update functionality and want to provide another document in according to the specification, the previous document should still be available and can be viewed. So so this is why, even if you have made a mistake, I think in such a case the recommendation here is for you to contact the service desk to explain what the problem is. Is it because you do not want the previous document to be made public? If that's the case, then we need to ask the EMA admin to actually remove the document from public view or to even to delete it. So it's, it really depends on the nature of the mistake, if it's as I explained now.
Thank you for explaining this to us, Noemi. Next question. Is it a problem when third country notifications are only available in local language? Yes. Bab, do you want to respond or shall we give this to Noemi?
Probably Noemi could start if she knows the answer.
Yes.
While I'm checking like some documentation to find more information on that. Don't remember by heart.
Yes, so on this one, the local language. So it's very true that the third country notification, so the inspection report, may only have been prepared in a specific language. You may wish to submit as such to the member state. However, they probably will come back to you and ask you for a translation. I think that's covered by the regulation in terms of they may wish to have it translated either into English or in another language. I think this is covered by the regulation. So please do go back to the article. I think it's Article 453.
Yes, we are approaching the time. We will take a couple of more questions before we announce some important information to all of you. For notifications that reference unexpected events, are these searchable across studies or only within the same trial? Yes. Can I ask Babis to take this question?
Mm, yes, Vicky. To be honest, like I'm not sure if the user asks for the secure domain or for the public domain. Well, if it's for the public domain, in the advanced search criteria, you can tick in the box there that I'm looking for trials that include unexpected events, and you will retrieve all the trials that fulfill your criteria, plus they have unexpected events. For the secure domain now, I need to check the system because I don't remember by heart if there is such a field there. And if you give me 1 second, unless Noemi, you remember by heart for the secure domain.
Yeah, no, good point. No, not necessarily, Babis. I couldn't for
I
sure
mean,
say.
I'm checking the system now, and I can see only one ticking box for serious breaches in the secure domain, and I cannot see anything regarding unexpected events.
Mm. Yeah, and I think as probably as we were saying during the presentation, Babis, we should confirm that an unexpected event has to be is trial centric. Let's say, huh?
Mhm.
It's not that the sponsor can provide the same unexpected event for several trials. Therefore, you can only search for a specific event. If you're looking for a specific event, it will only be for one study. Huh? It's got a specific ID as well, huh? As demonstrated to you during the demo by Babis.
True.
Shall we move to the next, Bobby?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Is a serious breach from GCP considered to be a serious breach from the EU CTR or from the protocol? Hmm. Yeah. Noemi, thank you.
So for this particular question, I think we would need to refer to the guidance provided by the GCP Inspectors Working Group. Also today in the system in CTIS, we only have two categories. And as I said, it's either protocol or regulation. And I think this is what you would need to refer to in terms of categories, as it is quite specifically recorded within the regulation. But I recommend you to also look at the guidance provided by the GCP Inspectors Working Group.
Okay, so let's move to one last question. Um, I think the first one is not relevant to today's topic, unfortunately. It was for last CTIS bite-sized talk. So, yes, and it must have been answered there. So please view the video we have uploaded. Shall we take this one then? Uh, what type of inspections fall under the third country inspectors' inspections?
A quick answer, and I think we've already tried to cover this one. Third country inspection reports needs to be for GCP inspections, borderline for laboratory inspection, obviously. And I think this is what I would want to to finish this Q&A with. I think this is what we've already answered this question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Noemi and Babis. Before we go, I would like the last 5 minutes of your attention. While uh, I want to ask you to please keep your Slido sessions open, as we would like you to participate in a short poll regarding your satisfaction for this bite-sized talk. Your feedback is valuable to us and helps us prepare for future events. Also, as always, the questions that you have submitted today in Slido will be used as input to EMA training and support materials. Today's presentation, as mentioned by Noemi earlier, has already been uploaded in the event page, and the recording will become available within 60 days following the event as per our multimedia policy. Thus, we recommend attendees to sign up to the clinical trials newsletter for information when the videos become available and also on upcoming events. Regarding that, I would like now to give you a short overview for the next CTIS events, the last ones for 2022. We continue also in 2023, but for now, the next ones are tomorrow we have the OMS troubleshooting session for CTIS users. On December on the 12th, we have a CTIS walk-in clinic where you can come in with any questions on CTIS, submit it, and have it answered live by our CTIS experts. And a few days later, on the 15th of December, there is a CTIS bite-sized talk on annual safety reports. And we will be happy to see you there. And please remember that you can now submit your questions in advance. And as said before, we prioritize answering questions submitted in advance. So you can go to the event page of each of these sessions. You will find the Slido link there, and feel free to submit your questions up to 2 days before the live event. What else? Oh yes, we have opened again the CTIS training environment survey, or we call it also CTIS sandbox. In case you want to express your interest to access the CTIS sandbox for purposes of practicing and preparing for the actual submission of your trials, your trial applications in CTIS, you can go to the sandbox survey. The link is on the presentation that is already on the event page, and you can take the survey and as a request for access to this training environment. Just last, one reminder of the question and answers document that has been published by the European Commission, this Q&A document on the clinical trial regulation. You can find it under Chapter 5 of UDRELEX 10, and for your convenience, the link is also included in this presentation. So, having said all that, allow me to thank once again Noemi and Babis, and I would like also to thank all of you for your kind attendance. Please submit your feedback in the Slido polling. Uh, it's very valuable to us, and I hope to see you in our next bite-sized talk in 15th of December. Thank you very much. Bye.